Now that we kind of understand what communication apprehension is, it's important to recognize that people have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to the concepts of communication apprehension as well as speech anxiety and stage fright. So let's talk about some of these myths and why they simply aren't true. First, some people think that people who suffer from speaking anxiety are neurotic. But having speech anxiety is perfectly normal. It's a normal reaction, as you just saw in that video. It's a reaction that our body has to the stress of being in a new situation. And even good speakers can get nervous, just like poor speakers do. And experienced speakers can get nervous, just like novice ones do. I've been doing public speaking for over a decade now, and I still get nervous whenever I'm in a new public speaking situation. So speaking anxiety, communication apprehension, these are all very normal reactions. You are not abnormal if you are nervous about giving a public speech. Some people think that they should start off their speech by telling a joke or two as a way to kind of break the ice with the audience. However, telling a joke is one of the most difficult things that you can do in a public speech because it requires a really practiced delivery. It requires a really good sense of timing. And oftentimes when you're really nervous, that's just not going to happen. It's also really easy to offend people accidentally with humor. So the material can not work for you in a lot of ways, and it can really make your speech all the more awkward because you've told this joke, no one laughed at it, and now you're even more nervous than you were before. So we're going to talk about various different ways that you can actually start your speech that are going to be effective for you and really help your audience get on board with your speech even faster. This is one that people have heard time and time again. You've probably been told that if you're nervous about public speaking, you should just imagine the audience naked. However, this isn't going to do anything to calm your nerves, because usually what we imagine sitting in front of us is actually more threatening than what is actually sitting in front of us. Our audience doesn't want us to fail, they want us to succeed. So your audience isn't there to hurt you, and imagining them naked isn't going to make them any less likely to hurt you or any more likely to hurt you. It just doesn't do anything, and it really just distracts you from focusing on the speech that you're trying to do. Some people think that any mistake that they make while giving a public speech means that they've blown it and they just should never give a public speech ever again. But we're all human. We all make mistakes. What matters is not whether we make a mistake, but how well we recover from it. A speech doesn't have to be perfect. We are humans. We are imperfect creatures. You just have to make an effort to relate your topic to the audience in a way that they are going to understand, and they are going to be much more willing to accept your mistakes, especially because your audience doesn't want you to make mistakes because they themselves as speakers don't want to make mistakes. So if you make little mistakes, they're going to be forgiving of it because they would want you to be forgiving of them when you are their audience member. Some people think that you can avoid speaking anxiety by writing out your entire speech word for word and memorizing it. But as we learned about in the appendix chapter, this is not the best way to go about things, because if you are trying to memorize your speech, the worst case scenario is that you completely blank on your speech and forget everything that you wanted to say and either have to stand there in silence, agonizingly waiting for your memories to come back, or else sit down in the middle of your speech and give up. So memorizing your speech is never going to be the answer to solving your speaking anxiety. Instead, you should plan out your speech well in advance and really get to know the content area that you're talking about and speak about it extemporaneously, like we talked about in the appendix chapter. So if you need to review what extemporaneousness is, go back to that chapter and take a look at it. It's really, really useful, and it will actually help you decrease your apprehension. A lot of people think that audiences are out to get you. But as I've stated before, your audience is not there to throw rotten tomatoes at you. Your audience wants you to succeed just as they hope that you want them to succeed, right? We are all doing this scary thing of giving a public speech. The natural state of audiences, rather, is empathy. They are not out to get you. They are not antagonistic towards you. Watching someone who is anxious tends to make audience members a little bit anxious themselves. So they want you to be comfortable speaking in front of them. They want you to succeed. A lot of people think that you will look to the audience as nervous as you feel. But in reality, you don't look that nervous at all. In your head, you may think that your hands are shaking really heavily and that they can hear the quaver in your voice and that they can see you tapping your note cards and all of these different things. But in reality, you're just giving off the slightest little tremor in your hand. They can't hear the quaver in your voice. You sound really good. You do not look as nervous as you feel, believe me. Most audience members will not be able to tell how nervous you are unless you actually tell them how nervous you are. Some people think that a little bit of nervousness helps you give a better speech. And this myth is actually true. Having a little bit of nervousness actually does help you perform better. In fact, a lot of actors and performers, singers, those types of folk, they say that the day that they are not nervous about going on and performing is the day that they mess up. Having a little bit of nervousness keeps you on your toes and keeps you in check with yourself. It makes you make sure that you do everything that you practiced. So a little bit of nervousness actually does help you give a better speech. And if you can learn how to control your nerves and channel them into your presentation, your speech is going to be the strongest speech that you can give.